Full disclosure for a second, I will be getting The Division 2 when it releases. While I didn't stick with the original game long enough to see all of its improvements, and I actually left before the second free DLC was released, I'm well aware of the improvements it made over the 2 years to finally be in a position where the game has like a defined purpose. I liked what The Division could have been, but I wasn't going to stick around forever with that game knowing the problems it needed to address and how long it would be before they were finally fixed. Because let's be honest, after the first month of the game, it was more fucked up than the YouTube order using a rubber anal dildo to go fuck himself. Now, second disclosure, I'm using some old ass footage. I didn't have the opportunity to play on the weekend. I didn't have the opportunity to actually play the game before I did this video. And I also asked some friends if they would be able to send in some footage. They didn't have the opportunity to do so. So I swiped some of my own shit. Now, the reality is, had I played the game, what would I have done? Killed a couple of fat guys or whatever the fuck it is. So I said, you know what, fuck it, I'm not even going to worry about it. I'm not going to play the game for 20, 30 minutes just to get a few seconds of footage. So in essence, I decided to go back, steal some of my old shit. So with that out of the way, let's get on to the business at hand. Last week, the announcement was made about The Division 2. And in all honesty, it couldn't have been a more mundane announcement if they tried. Seriously, what in the fuck was the purpose of that? This has to be the most head-scratching thing the game could have started off with, because this is probably Ubisoft's best chance they're gonna get to get the market and hype of this game out better than anyone, and they just pretended it was no big deal. You know, I just want you guys to look at this from a marketing standpoint. Not a gamer who likes the game. Doesn't matter if you like the game, you have no intention of buying the game, whatever the fuck it is. Just look at the marketing ploy. Anybody with half a brain knows The Division was going to get a sequel. Without even playing the game and knowing the ending was left open-ended to show a sequel was going to be created, Division sold incredibly well when it launched. It brags about being the best-selling brand new franchise of all time, topping Destiny when it launched 2 years before The Division. Ubisoft refers to this game as a franchise. Not a game, but as a franchise, which clearly means there are going to be multiple games. Although the launch of the game had its issues, and less than 1 month into the game, it really shit the bed. It came around to being a top-notch game 2 years later after it got its so much needed help. A sequel was coming. You didn't need to know the date. You didn't need to know what team or what studio was working on it. There was no question this game was going to be made. It's like knowing the sun is going to rise in the east, the Kardashians will whore themselves out for more money, and the Russians will cheat at the Olympics. There are certainties in life that you know are occurring. This was one of them. So why would you just make an announcement just to say that this game exists without any oomph or something to back that shit up? No gameplay, no visuals, no expose on it, just a title screen of a fucking splash page. This game isn't Call of Duty where you know each year a new game is coming. People just want to know what time period the game is going to be placed in. This isn't Madden or FIFA where you know the game is coming and you just want to know who's on the cover this year. This is not an annual franchise, but you know the game is in development. What makes this decision even more puzzling, again, this is from a marketing standpoint, is Ubisoft is in such an enviable position right now with this game and its market share. You know, for a lack of a better way of describing this game, The Division is a shared world loot shooter. There aren't too many games in this category that have the following that it has. Destiny, Warframe, to a certain extent Borderlands, and eventually Anthem appears to be heading in that direction. Of these four potential competitors, The Division has marketing advantages over all of them right now. Anthem is the one that I've already said that I feel bad for. It has quite a bit of negative press with only one fucking video. EA's other franchises have turned people off to a game that hasn't even shown non-scripted gameplay yet. The loot crates in Star Wars and the flop with Mass Effect Andromeda have people thinking Anthem will fail. So the game is already fighting uphill, and it's shown virtually nothing to us of what the game is and what it can do. For the most part, The Division doesn't have to worry about Anthem because EA and BioWare have far more to prove than The Division does, since they have already gotten back to a point where people like the game. Borderlands hasn't announced anything recently, at least that I'm aware of. I mean, while I personally consider Borderlands something a little bit different than the shared world shooter games that we have in these categories, there are people that do like to classify all loot shooters together. Fine. Not going to argue with that. I don't think it's the same genre as The Division, but with the loot style of the game, it's a close cousin to The Division in terms of the loot part. I mean, obviously, it's completely different. The over-the-top story, the characters, the comic book artistic direction, they're completely different from The Division's serious and grounded version of the game, but obviously, loot shooters tend to get lumped together. That leaves two games, of course. Destiny is self-destructing. It's like your alcoholic friend that decided to go on a weekend binge and has turned into a months of fucking drinking binge. Look, it's been covered. Destiny's fucked up. The Division has the perfect timing of burying their main competition. And look, these two games are obviously different from a story perspective. Out of all the 5 games that I mentioned, The Division is the only one that doesn't go fully sci-fi in that motherfucker. It does go for a more realistic approach. It has quite an accurate portrayal of New York City. You know, it doesn't have super jumps and alien powers and space magic. It does have a little bit of sci-fi elements involved in the motherfucker, but essentially, there's no robots. There's no aliens. Yes, it has a share of bullshit, like shooting an enemy in the fucking face for 3 goddamn minutes straight and they just laugh off the bullet damage. That's beyond unrealistic outside of like alien and robot shooters, as I said, because humans should fucking die after the first 2 or 3 bullets to the goddamn dome. But the Division needed bullet sponge enemies to provide form of difficulty. Regardless of how realistic the game tries to be, and how many ridiculous things you'll only see in video games, it's not the pure sci-fi fantasy worlds of Destiny, Anthem, and Borderlands. But Destiny's in a tailspin, and it's most likely not going to recover from this one, and the Division is benefiting from this more than any other game. Because of Activision's marketing, Destiny is viewed as the model for shared world shooters. It's not the first, it's certainly not the best, it's the most marketed. It's similar to how Call of Duty sells more games than Battlefield, even though critics tend to like Battlefield games a bit more each year. Doesn't matter what game is better. What matters is what's selling. If you're comparing shared world loot shooter collection games, Destiny is the face of that genre. The Division wants Destiny's spot, and that brings me to the final game on this list, the little engine that keeps on chugging along, Warframe. A game with crazy ambitions and has managed to push towards these crazy ambitions almost every single year. Like every other game on this list, it certainly has its differences with the Division, and some of the key pieces aside from the fantasy angle that it has is the free-to-play model. It also has the endless characters or Warframes that you can have in the game, and the fact that Warframe continues to update itself as opposed to making a sequel is another major difference. Instead of putting all your ideas into a brand new $60 game, Warframe puts all their ideas into the existing free game that they have funded through microtransactions for cosmetic shit. As far as I know, Warframe doesn't have anything major announced yet. Of course, they could be working on things, they just haven't announced them yet, but they have mostly smaller updates that are coming, some extra Warframes, some guns, I think a few new enemies, patches, yeah, you know, the basic maintenance type stuff and shit. What's sad is that even though Warframe's a game that keeps chugging along, it does it with very little fanfare. You know, Destiny makes an announcement and is covered by every fucking video game media possible. If EA announced something for Anthem, it would be covered like a motherfucker, but the only info we get from Warframe is when something major like the Plains of, what was it, Eidolon, whatever the fuck they want to call that shit, whenever that expansion came out, that was the last thing you really heard of Warframe. Otherwise, the people who play it are in the know, and the people who don't play the game only hear about it when something major is coming. For what the game has morphed into, what it's capable of being, it's unfortunate that it's not a major competitor against the Division or Destiny. People enjoy playing the game, but because of its free-to-play status, because the studio continues to update the game as opposed to rolling out a true sequel like Warframe 2, it doesn't get the attention that it probably deserves. So in theory, as good as Warframe is right now, and as happy as their player base is, the lack of media attention for the game doesn't make this a major threat to the Division. With all that being said, it blows my mind that Ubisoft didn't put together something to show off the fucking game. Shit, even their scripted trailers that they like to show would have been fucking fine. You know the ones that they do. They do it for every fucking game. Assassin's Creed, Watch Dogs, and fucking even the Division got one there a few years ago. The fact that Division put out their original announcement trailer pretty much 3 years before the launch of the game shows Ubisoft has no problem announcing something well in advance with some footage. Fuck, even an image of New York City or another city that this can happen to. Chicago, Philly, Boston, whatever the fuck. Give us something, man. Nope. We get an image of the number 2 to show us the Division 2. Whoop-de-fucking-do, man. Now, the final thing that could be an issue down the road, and obviously it's not an issue right now because we're still waiting for info on the game, but what could turn into an issue down the road is the release date. Ubisoft announced that the first time we're going to see some gameplay is going to be E3 this year, and that's going to be coming out in June. Usually, when games want to announce something in June, that means it's going to release within the next 11 months. So you have to figure before June of 2019, we're going to see this game. And in all likelihood, games that like to show off at E3 are going to be coming pretty much right at the start of the holiday season or just after the holiday season. Here's what gets me really worried. If the Division thinks they're going to be a holiday release, if they think they're going to release between September and December, they are utterly fucking screwed. Oh, there's no way around this shit. It's just, at this point, don't fucking do it. Do not release anywhere between September to December, otherwise you are totally fucking yourself in the ass. And here's why. Obviously, the Division has certain competitors, and I've already listed the 4 major competitors that it has. But at the same time, there are other games that release, and other games that push major dollars when it comes to sales. Call of Duty is going to be releasing in October this year, a month earlier than it normally does. And you know why? Because the one studio that fucking scares the shit out of them, Rockstar, is going to be releasing Red Dead Redemption 2 just after Call of Duty comes out. They are so fucking scared of Rockstar, they moved the release of Call of Duty up 1 month just so that they don't have to compete with them head-to-head. The last time they went head-to-head with Rockstar, Grand Theft Auto utterly blew Call of Duty Ghosts out of the water. I mean, it wasn't even a fucking fair competition. The game is still, what is it sold? 75 million copies? 85 million copies at this point? The game has gone on to be one of the greatest sellers of all time. Rockstar made a boatload off of this fucking game. And Activision knows Red Dead Redemption has that very same chance of fucking them over. So they moved their game up because they're so nervous about this shit. We know Destiny 2 is going to have a fall expansion. They're going to release in September. We know Battlefield is coming out. And with Red Dead Redemption releasing at the end of October, you know they're probably going to push the game up. So what point is the Division going to launch? Do you want to go head-to-head with Destiny? I think that's not a bad idea because you can actually get a lot of fans to come over to the game. But do you want to go head-to-head with Call of Duty? No. Do you want to go head-to-head with Battlefield? No. Do you want to go head-to-head with Rockstar? Fuck no. There is no time frame from September to December where you're not going to have a major game pulling away some of your actual sales. So the best thing that the Division can do is launch in 2019. Be February. Do March. Doesn't matter. Go head-to-head against Anthem. We know Anthem's coming out in 2019. Anthem hasn't established a player base yet. The Division has. If you think you're going to go up against those established franchises of the past 15 years, or you're going to go up against Rockstar, who releases awesome games every single time, you are sorely mistaken. The Division's going to need players. They're most likely going to do what they did last time, giving players a month to ramp up before they roll out more content. If you release this in September, go head-to-head with Destiny. By the time the Division rolls out their biggest content, which was a month later, if you look at the Division 1, now you're going up against Call of Duty. You don't stand a chance. Do the smart thing, Ubisoft. Do not release this anywhere from September to December. Obviously, they haven't announced anything yet. They haven't announced a date. They haven't announced what the fuck it is. But essentially, if they launch in the wrong window, they're going to be pulling a Titanfall in this motherfucker. Oh, I still feel bad for Titanfall 2. God damn, did EA fuck that game over. But look, Ubisoft, don't release this shit in fall of 2018. Just release the game in early 2019. You won't have that much competition. The other games will be self-destructing. Fans will be tired of that shit, and they'll be on to the next content. If you release it early, you're fucking yourselves over. So fine, you want to show us your gameplay at E3, I have no problem with that, but god damn it, do not launch that shit in the fall. If you really go up against all those games during the holiday release, you're gonna get your shit stomped. Don't fucking do it. Release it in 2019. Anyways, that does it for my Division video. Ubisoft, I know you're not going to listen to me because you're a bunch of assholes. But look, if you want the game to survive, don't fuck this shit up. So as always, rate, comment, subscribe, and all that good shit. And I'll see you guys in the next video.